So welcome to today's Bible reading. We're looking at chapters 6 and 7 of Luke. And we start off with this rich man who has a master looking after, not master, a manager, sorry, looking after parts of his business. And this master has created quite a lot of problems. He's got businesses owing this company that he manages stuff, and the businessman starts to get annoyed at the manager being like, you've let this go, you've let this pass, you owe me so much money, and fires his manager. But before the manager gets fired, he talks to these other companies, other people, and he's like, how much do you owe me? And then in verse 6, another business says, I owe you 6,000 litres of olive oil. And the manager said to him, take your bill, sit down and quickly write it to 1,500. So he's trying to get on the good side of these other businesses so that if he does have to leave, or as he has to leave, he can just simply pop over to these other companies and stay employed. But one thing we need to look at and focus on is verse 13, which says, no servant can serve two masters. Basically, it's saying, and then goes on to say, you cannot serve both God and worldly riches. So we always need to remember basically that God comes first, but we may have an amazing job, we may have lots of money, we may have kids, family, but what needs to come at the very top of that list is God. And that can be hard, but we just need to remember to try and keep God at the centre of our lives and bring that in. And then let's go a bit further on. We'll skip two parts, and then we'll go to the rich man and Lazarus. So Jesus talks about this rich man who was always dressed in purple, which is a kind of sign that he could be a member of royalty, but it's not that clear. And a poor man lived outside of his gates and sat there every day, all day, and had quite bad sores to the point where even dogs would come and lick him to help, which must have been quite painful. But this rich man just walks past every single day, does nothing to help, and eventually they both die, and Lazarus goes to heaven, and the rich man goes to hell because Lazarus was a good guy. And in heaven, Lazarus is carried into the arms of Abraham, is what it says in 22. Angels carried him. And basically this rich man calls out to Abraham and asks, can you help me? It's really hot. Can Lazarus just come over here and with a drop of water on his fingers and put it on my tongue to help? And Abraham just says no. And in 25 it says, remember when you were alive, you had good things in life, but Lazarus didn't have them, but now he has good things in his life, in heaven, in the afterlife. And that's the kind of example that we need to live, that we need to be this poor man that doesn't kind of idolize these riches. And then it goes on to say that the rich man then begs Lazarus, or begs Abraham even, to go down and make Lazarus alive again, born again, to tell his brothers about heaven. But Abraham simply replies that no, this won't work, this can't be. It's all written by Moses and the prophets, so it's all there, and that is what keeps it going. So now we go on to chapter 17, which really outsets the kind of feeling of what it is like to be a Christian, of how there will be sin and we need to forgive, that we need to be faithful, we are God's servants, and we do have things to do in our Christian lives. We need to be thankful for everything we get given. And then it goes on to talk towards the end about God's kingdom and Jesus coming again. But I think one of the key bits is actually at the very beginning, straight away in verse 1. It says things that cause people to sin will happen, but how terrible for the person who causes them to happen. So straight away it says we will sin. There will be things in our lives that make us sin. And it's because we're imperfect. There's no way we're not going to be able to sin. But it then goes straight on to talk about how those things, those people that cause us to sin, should be rebuked, that we need to tell them that it is wrong to do that. But also that we should forgive them. And it doesn't say we should just forgive them once. It says no matter how many times they ask for forgiveness, we should forgive them each time. And that really shows what it is to be a Christian. We need to forgive people, no matter what happens. And then it goes on in verse 7 to talk about, or verse 7 to 10, to talk about being a servant. And when this was written, it was a real common thing to have servants on the fields, and they would usually have multiple tasks and things like that. But it says you wouldn't ask a servant to do a job that's not their job. And God asks us to do things in our lives. We've got gifts, we've got skills, we've got talents that God has given us, whether we know it or not. And these can change. We can learn new ones. We can teach ourselves things. But God has duties for us. And that's why we have our natural talents half the time, is that we can just, God will tell us to do something. And when he tells us to, we should have faith to go and do it. Sometimes we might not feel confident or worthy enough or think to ourselves that we have these gifts, but we really can do these. And that could be something as just talking to people. You could be a general Christian and just go and talk to people. And you never know, talking to one person about your faith could be talking to that next person who is going to have some real evangelistic gifts and could be bringing thousands of people to Christ. And who knows, that's what could happen. It could be that you've just got those little gifts of being really welcoming and supportive, and you could be part of pastoral supports and welcome teams and things like that. And it's just having that small part to play in the church, and God gives us all skills and giftings for any parts of those roles. And then we've got to be really thankful. So in verses 11 to 19, God heals 10 men with leprosy, and only one of the 10 come back to say thankful. And we need to be that 1 in 10 that goes back and says thankful. No matter what, this guy was healed and he's gone back to say thankful. If we've given gifts and tasks and these work out, we should go back and be thankful. We need to be thankful for our situations. And that's who we should be as Christians. And then it goes on in the rest of the chapter to talk about God's kingdom within us and Jesus coming again. And with God's kingdom within us, it should be that people could see we're Christians. Like, we don't have to put on a persona, we don't have to act who we are. People can just tell, like, we just need to be good Christians. And by doing what we've just talked over in the other parts of 17, that really sets an outset of who we should be. And now the final bit that has a lot in it. It talks about when the Son of Man comes again, and actually how during these times, it won't be. It would be really weird, but people will make stuff up. They will gossip. They will say, "Oh, he's going to come back now. He is back. This guy is the Son of Man." But actually, when he comes back, we will know. It says right away, when the Son of Man comes back, he will shine like a light which flashes across the sky and lights up from one side to another. So we will know who it is. We don't have to be told. We won't need to be told, "Oh, look, the Son of Man's been back," but we will be able to tell for ourselves. But what we need to remember is during these times, we shouldn't turn our backs. We shouldn't go back to get stuff, that we should just go straight away. So in verse 24, oh no, that was that bit. Somewhere later on, I can't see it, it goes to say how people on the roofs, people who are out in the street, shouldn't go back to get their possessions because you won't need them. That you shouldn't check people, that some people, will get left behind because they haven't devoted, they aren't Christians. But we just have to repent and ask God to make us, ask God, talk to God, be like, "Lord, I repent all my sins and I would like to become a Christian. I feel like it's time." And start reading the Bible,